but is there a plan, a timeline plan? I hear Hector saying that you might be kicking off the dialogues when he is here. Is there a plan as to who would be invited to participate, how they would be invited, and how the word would get out that this is not a, I mean, what happened, Truth and Reconciliation holds a weighted meaning for South Africa, and to put that into the context of Portland, for my mind, it needs to be explained in some way, because those people who were talking, who were being truthed and reconciled, that's not the word, but the purposes of those conversations were about issues that we don't know, well, we probably have smaller versions of those kinds of issues, but we want to know kind of what kinds of people, if I were to participate and I wasn't sitting around this table, I would want to know what this means.
Yeah, no, that's, thank you. We're still figuring that out, I think would be the short answer. And aware, you know, the TRC existed in a cultural context where there was maybe a broader consensus about what the harm was that was being addressed. And so I think that's one of the challenges, but also opportunities for this dialogue process to, for us to be able to kind of be ginger in our navigation of, well, what kind of harm do we want to address, and which communities do we want to reach out to, and of course not, my intention would not be that anybody would feel excluded, but that maybe we could come up with a mechanism so that people could say, hey, you know, what about doing it this way, or this might work better in our community, or, you know, that we could be accessible for people that way. But yeah, we're still working on a timeline, and
May 4th is really soon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, this is if you go about it the wrong way, it could cause more trouble than it helps. So, I'm sure you have all thought of that.
Yeah. No, thank you for reiterating it, though. I appreciate it.
I'm a connector, so I need to share this with you.
Okay, I see. It's okay. I just wanted to make sure you know I saw you, but okay.
Very short. There is also a neighbors mediation program that's going on in Beaverton. It's staffed by volunteers, and it has been going on for several years. So you could contact them and also learn from their way of doing things.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources that exist in the community. Judith Mowry was actually at our meeting, and she comes from Resolutions Northwest, and the Community Effective Engagement Solutions. I can't remember, her title is really long for the city, but has a long background in doing mediation work. And I, in my days as an activist, did a lot of work with the restorative justice community, and so yeah, there's the program, the Surrogate Dialogues program in Washington County, and working in Beaverton and the Clark County as a model that's international, Deschutes County. There's a lot of resources just right in Oregon for people that are doing dialogue type work. Again, it's still within a criminal justice context, and so that's where it can be helpful, but there's some limitations on what people can offer us too.
When it talks in here about violence, is that the only kind of harm, or I noticed under the justice piece on values descriptions, or is it also discrimination and bigotry? I mean, is that still to be determined? Is that what I'm hearing?
So maybe I'll talk about the handouts now. If you could transition, it's kind of like you just throw things out there. Donna, do you want to, before I transition, do you want to share what you were going to share?
Well, I was going to share two things about formats for discussion. I know Portland Public Schools is, there are about 5 schools working on using a book as a basis for discussion to discuss race. It's called Courageous Conversations in Race. And it's voluntary at this point, but that's one format that's happening. Another one is, and I haven't gotten connected to it, but I know that one of the things that the president, that's so good. President Obama wanted was, you know, the community connection. And so when I was at the inauguration, that sounds even better, was when they passed out these little cards about forming groups, community groups. And so I know someone who is in a community group. It's a community discussion groups. And so it's just getting people to talk and to discuss. And I'm not clear about what the format is or how you get involved in the groups. But anyway, I'm going to be investigating that further to find out more about it, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
But these are discussion groups that people are doing, and what I see him doing is opening up a dialogue where people come together, discuss things that they're comfortable with and familiar with, and then moving into deeper dialogue as time goes along. So.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. The NCCJ, which is now defunct.
At least here, it's not everywhere.
Well, no, actually, the one in LA folded too, unfortunately. But a very good friend of mine, Father Eric Law, who was one of the pioneers in developing these kinds of trainings for people for reconciliation. And as someone who's a trained mediator, mediation is not the same as reconciliation. And so if you're interested, I can certainly give you my contact information for Eric, and he might be able to also have some resources for you as well, because it's a very unique process, and I've worked in the criminal justice system for years. It's not the same.
What, Eric, who's? Eric?
Law. Eric Hung Fang Law. You can find him at the Diocese of Los Angeles, is where his office is. The Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles, yes.
It's so exciting to me that so many people are asking questions and offering information. It's just like, oh, this, I think we have something here that people want to do and participate in, and maybe have some hesitation about, but it's at least people are paying attention. It's, that feels exciting to me. So the handout that I sent out, one is a draft that I fiddled with, and the other one I didn't touch. So both are documents. The organization that I used to work with, the Partnership for Safety and Justice, is the only organization that we're aware of in the country that has an analysis that both incorporates people who have been harmed by crime as well as people who have perpetrated crimes. And so I and other survivors working in that organization decided to come up with what we called a framework. What does it mean to be a quote-unquote progressive survivor, or somebody who has been hurt and who doesn't want the same kind of harm to happen to the people who hurt us? And how do we really create a response to violence that reduces violence in our communities? So we came up with, these are two aspects of the framework, the values and the beliefs and vision that we hold for our criminal justice system. I'm just trying to put it out there to give a little bit of traction to some of these ideas, because what we're talking about can feel so big. It can be helpful to maybe read something on a piece of paper so that we have some shared language and we can engage a little bit about what do you mean when you say violence. I really appreciate Tricia's question that way. The draft values, the paragraph at the top, I fiddled with just kind of trying to capture the intent as I heard it from other committee members at our meeting for this dialogue process. And then the values, actually I kept a lot of the definitions that we used at the CSCS program, but we're not married to them. It's just like, it's always helpful for me to just put out something, and then it gives, people can edit it or comment on it or respond to it. But a lot of the words that we use, like safety and healing, accountability, are words that came up in the committee. It's not surprising when we're talking about harm, those sorts of words come up for people. So,
talk about violence. What does it mean in this context? You said, because I was also triggered by that word, and you said, oh, it means all of institutional racism. It means.
Yeah, I think I forget about that when I use that word violence. I think I use the word crime less, because crime is such a narrow definition of all of the harm that happens in the community. I don't want to, you know, as a person who's a survivor of a quote-unquote crime, I don't want to belittle that, but then it's also, you know, paralyzed by a drunk driver, but my whole experience as a human being and the harm that I've experienced as a person with a disability is actually far greater than just being paralyzed by a drunk driver. So I constantly strive for language that is more inclusive of people's experiences, because we are experiencing harm on a day-to-day level. There are ways that whole institutions operate to exclude or marginalize people in our community. And so language like harm or violence, I find, is more able to capture the human experience. So.
Any other questions for our members?
Can other people join the committee?
Yes.
I think we have volunteers.
Yes, would you like to join?
We have a recruitment process, which
We'll take an application from you.
That's a good question. We don't, do we need to apply the same kind of process to every committee, or are certain committees more hot than others, and so we need to go through a more formal, you know what I'm saying, because the Community and Police Relations Committee will have a formal process. And this one is an ad hoc committee,
Yeah,
so it's different. Okay, yeah. I wanted to just say, Arwen, I've been talking to the University of Columbia Law Center. They're doing research on human rights commissions across the country. And they've been calling from our office about Portland. And when I told them about this idea and this project, the woman was beside herself. She was very excited. Nowhere else in the country has a human rights commission taken this on in this way. So it's very visionary in her mind.
Right. Yeah, it's a very exciting start. Thanks for leadership on it.
Yeah, and please, more feedback, more input. It's nice.
Okay. And next up, Will's going to give us, he's going to tie up loose ends on the Education and Outreach Committee.
I wonder what loose ends that means. Yeah. Just to make clear that we don't have a committee yet, just to bring what the idea about what the committee should be or like, or sometimes back to us to define how we want it and how it should be. Okay. But when I was talking previously about education, one area that's, because education outreach can take different ways, and one of the ways is educating people in the outreach and letting them know what is a Human Rights Commission and what consists of values, mission, etc. The area that deeply I was looking at is what is our community background. Each area in our community, or the groups, what's their background, who are they? Because that's where the fair starts, that's where discrimination starts. So what I was talking about is, for example, having multiple presentations, groups, things like that, that we can sponsor or host or run, that talks about, for example, what means African American in Portland or Northeast Portland community of Portland, what means Arab Muslim community of Portland, and what means Chicano, Latino, etc., etc. Those educating our communities about these groups, and there is no better way to have the Human Rights Commission to be hidden that part. Then it comes also that automatically, actually it comes with its the outreach and marketing when you are doing those parts. And just briefly to point about the budget meeting, because when I walked there, I was ready with my laptop, and they have 3 minutes that I was ready to talk about the value and importance of human relations and human rights. Then I saw the learning moment, and no, it does not work that way. I built these round tables. But when I stood back and I watched, is all back to where you find table with a lot of people and passion, is bureaus that have been for a long period of time in Portland. Here again, we are very important to the eyes of the community, but we are new. Here is what we are facing. So what can help in a moment like that? And now, by the time of voting for the budget and the future, how are we educating our communities about all of us? Some people, that's immigration not important to them. or immigrants that they don't know it is not an important subject. How we can have, for example, hosting some educational events where immigrants talk about the community, of the value, the importance, who we are, what do we bring to the community. So that's what I was talking in the last meeting about having a committee. That's our focus and area, because when you look at human rights, it didn't start from the beginning when it was starting. Not was the notion to go and try to punish or to say somebody you're wrong. No, they try all to educate people of the importance of as human and our rights and valuable existence in this world. So that's what was my intent.
And what does that mean as far as moving forward at this point? Are you looking to get other people on the committee and actually start to do things now, or do you think it's?
Yeah, what looking is to get things going. We need a committee. We need a committee, and also to develop what is our vision, what we need to be doing from now to the future, what we should be right now in the community. Let's do like the event we did 1 week when we ran this event. It's applicable for this committee to take it on and assess staff about some event that we can do. And there's a lot of events that I know in the community that we don't have to develop for. We can just go and partner with them and be part of those. So that's what I'm.
Okay. So if folks who are interested, follow up with Abdul. We should probably, I mean, since there's 4 or 5 folks who aren't here, send out an email to folks who can make it today as well.
This committee also could be very supportive to the community education and peace building program, in that there is a large education component of that work that you could help inform, guide, launch, champion. So it makes sense, and it was a recommendation in the forming documents for the office.
Right, it's part of our responsibility.
It was a recommendation, yeah.
Maybe Elisa, I remember we talked about PR. Would PR be available to these committees?
You know, that was the question, I think that was part of the confusion around last time, because Tricia had said we need a communications committee.
Yeah, but I think that what Abdul is envisioning, that there's quite a bit of.
There are different functions, but there's quite a bit of, I mean, the opportunities for public relations and communication is huge, and it's big around every committee. It's almost as though we need that lens for everything that we do, and someone and some people power to launch those opportunities, not just pull
One-man show.
I have a question around that too, if I'm following correctly. A component I see that we can have an opportunity, or almost a responsibility, to build relationships, engage organizations like the Community of Color Coalition, where they can share what we're discussing with their diverse communities, and then they can build on their ideas. And what's the mechanism? How do they engage with the commission, and how do they bring back concerns or share that information? Is that part of what we're talking about in this?
Yeah, there is, yes, exactly. And one of the things is, I look at the city of Portland. Unfortunately, we don't have things well organized or coordinated. Because we have, for example, an event that's happening in an area of Portland that we put together and talk about the value of that group. But also when we are holding events, we're holding it in the heart of that community, instead of traveling to the community where it needs more to learn about them. So there's a lot of things that's not coordinated, not known. Even myself, I'm ignorant sometimes that I hear a year later an event happened, which would be really valuable for me to know about, and some people that I know that to bring along. We don't know about that. So that's what's another challenge.
Yeah, there's a need for both functions.
Anything else on this? Okay, then why don't we move to our next agenda item? Thank you, Abdul, for that.
Thank you.
Muna, are you, did you,
Yeah.
you have some results for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does this capture all of them right here, Luna?
Yes. Yeah, can you back it up a bit? Because the visibility is difficult. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so given our very scientific system and all the resources at my disposal, I came up with the following categories, which I felt, I tried to really look at what everyone wrote and get to the essence of what you were trying to get at. So that said, research and what I consider policy analysis seems to be leading the pack. So what do we mean by research and policy analysis? I'm just going to read off some of these. So, say for instance, analyzing equity in distribution of jobs, okay? Studying the housing policies in Mexico, for instance, ensuring that city hiring processes have likely outcomes of representing diverse communities, improving citizen access to city services, and so on and so forth. So I figured that it really takes, at least the bulk of that work would involve looking at, various policies, analyzing them, and then coming up with workable solutions to bring about or support whatever change that needs to come about. Education was broad, so I'll just say some of the things that are written here. Work to increase broad community understanding about the importance of human rights. Make a series of short commercials. So when I say education, I was also thinking kind of community education with a bit of PR. So again, it goes into education and what is that? Does that include communications? Does that exclude it? I lump them together. Education and outreach on importance of HR issues in Portland and issues outside Portland, doing campaigns at schools about human rights and diversity education. So that had five votes. Direct advocacy involved issues such as housing and jobs and immigrant and refugee issues. I threw the refugee in there, but it says immigrant rights and issues. It also talks about issues of disability and so on and so forth. So it would really be, conducting direct advocacy in various areas of our society. So if it's about disability, if it's about housing, if it's about employment, lending the HRC's reputation and its capacity to pushing forward various advocacy initiatives. Promoting goodwill. This is really, this is purely what I would consider what you in your individual and collective capacities are doing, on a day-to-day basis. Let's see. So to assist the community become a beloved family, for instance, become a just and peaceful city. Have Portland become renowned as a city of sanctuary, safety, respect, and dignity. Sharing knowledge and education. So it's one of those broader categories. As I said, it's the soft power that this commission would be pushing. Community dialogues, that's pretty self-explanatory. Dialogues to promote intercultural awareness and understanding. Responding to emerging issues to facilitate community dialogues. And building intergroup relations. Justice and reconciliation, also self-explanatory. So forums for victims to air grievances, having a jury duty, in essence, listening to the cases of violations of human rights and deciding on necessary steps to remedy them. And, when injustice occurs, how is this acknowledged and how is it honored? And last but not least, this is what I consider police and community relations, helping to make law enforcement reflect community values, work to improve police and community relations. So
these are the broad categories that I was able to come up with. And if you feel that there aren't one that are reflected here, or I have miscaptured something, please, share your insight.
I think I just assumed that the police and community relations piece was a given since it's in our city council work and everywhere else. So I think that the number 2 on there is probably a little misleading because I didn't waste one of mine. I mean, I don't mean waste, but I didn't.
You do mean waste.
Well, that's more strategic than others.
Yeah, I didn't use my slip.
Yes,
So,
I
mean, I
wanted
think
to
the
honor
numbering
everything
there
that was written down, and so I'm sure there are people who would have lent their vote to this one versus these 2, and so on and so forth. But based on what individuals wrote down, this is how I wrote it down.
And I don't think this was designed to, say, okay, that came in last, we're not doing
Right.
it. As much as just to begin the conversation
Right.
and kind of get a sense for where folks were starting at in terms of their
How much
priorities.
work we have to do with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right.
What's interesting, Jeff, is that a lot of it is about function rather than issues.
Yes, that is
Or
interesting.
issues informing function. So once we fine-tune the question, we make it at the deeper issues that are emerging. But it's interesting. And some of these are highly recommended by human relations organizations nationally. The functions. The issues, yeah, also. Interesting.
Great. Any other thoughts or feedback on this? I think really the idea here is just to have this be the starting point for a conversation. I think what we'll do in our in the inter period between this and our next meeting is think about how to take this and continue the conversation forward. I think one thing that's obvious is that we'll use some of this feedback as a baseline to begin the strategic planning work, but I think that would be useful for us to, also use it, begin our own internal dialogues. And some of these things we're already working on, which is, I guess, not surprising, but a good positive thing. So thank you, Nina, for doing that. If there are no other thoughts or feedbacks, this will be the time where we can be available for public comments. Is anyone here wanting to make a public comment to the commission? Yes, Mr. Marin.
Well, I didn't necessarily want to go first.
Well, you're also going last if you're the only one.
I was going to say, if I'm the only one. I did make a couple of notes. For those of you who don't know, I'm one of the honorary advisors. I'm a psychotherapist. I've spent much of my career working in a center of rehabilitation. And I lived in Miami for 5 years, where Jeff is from, which is really the laboratory for most diversity and cross-cultural issues in the United States. A statistic, when I left Miami in 1983, English-speaking white people were 14% of the city population, and over 52% of the county population was born in another country. So this is deja vu. I had 3 things I wanted to mention, and the first has to do about our funding shortage. Once upon a time, in a kingdom by the sea known as Orange County, California, I was one of the folks who showed up every month at the Alcohol and Drug Treatment Advisory Commission for the county, and it happened to be when Orange County went bankrupt. Do any of you remember that? And so we were looking at 90% funding cuts for alcohol and drug treatment in Orange County, and mental health as well. I mean, it was kind of draconian, but not dissimilar to what Governor Kulongoski has put on the ground right here. And I had a lot of experience in political organizing, being a gay rights activist, and they didn't. So we strategized, we got lots of bodies to lots of meetings, lots of phone calls, and by the time it was all over, we preserved 85% of the funding. And so I lived in LA for 22 years, and there's a saying in Hollywood that there's no such thing as bad publicity. And I think in terms of the survival of this work, it's important to make reasonable, polite ruckus and lots of it, because that's the only way that folks are going to have a clear mandate regarding the importance of this work. And I know that Portlanders tend to be reserved and polite. We can still be polite, but perhaps a little less reserved. So that's that comment. The next one has to do with I've used the metaphor of soap. This body, and Oni as well, but certainly this body exists to keep our city clean in terms of human relations issues and human rights issues. And when your budget is tight, you don't stop buying soap. And the last thing, having to do with our dialogues, etc., what I've found over the years is that most white folks, and I've particularly experienced this in Portland, are really very gun-shy about all of these issues. It's a minefield. And so I would hope that one of the things we can do, if, for example, we do testimonies or any kind of audiovisual work, is have white people, especially who are leaders in the community, talk about their sort of fear and trepidation and awkwardness engaging people from different cultures. I think that's, again, we tend to be shy and reserved here, and if we don't have a proper introduction or a proper vehicle for initiating dialogue, we just don't. As a Southerner, that's what I've noticed about Portland in the 3 years that I've lived here. And I think it's important that we sort of give people permission and some tools to engage dialogue with strangers and feel comfortable doing it and work through the minefield of possible harm and difference. That I found people are generous everywhere I go, and that people respond to genuine attempts at vulnerability. even if we happen to land on someone's toe by accident, people tend to be very forgiving and patient because they appreciate our willingness to be vulnerable and take a risk in order to engage someone sort of halfway. So those are my 3 comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for your service on the honorary advisory board. Chief Sizer, oh, yes.
Oh, I do.
I just had you marked down as wanting to make a comment, Chief Sizer. I don't know if you actually did. Sometimes we'll just mark it in the
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
My name is Andrea Cano, and I'm the Executive Director of the Latino Network. And as we say in Spanish, Portland is un ranchito. It's a small place where we all encounter one another. And I just wanted to say how pleased I am to see this commission, for me, the first time to see you at work, because I know how long people have journeyed to have this come to fruition and to look at different ways of supporting it. I just want to say that we are intersecting on so many different levels with you and with some of those issues, and we mirror and reflect a lot of what your priorities are, and just to say that we are very, as we say in Spanish, disponible to be in part of that journey with you.
Thank you. Did you want to say something, Chief Sizer, or?
Oh, no, I would just echo, I think you have characterized Portland very well. And as someone who has been personally engaged on conversations that are somewhat difficult for 2-3 years now, it does get easier with practice. I think there becomes, the dialogue then becomes organic, and trust is built from it. But it takes some courage, and I think you all can play an important role in recognizing those courageous acts when they take place. And so, as well as mirroring how to have those conversations, and that may be a different conversation at some point, but I think people should be recognized when they take the step forward, and maybe that will create momentum. And I think all of you in your role here have made this step yourselves and are a leader in that. And I think this is exciting.
I wanted to share something as a community person, something that I just put together this morning as a concern, and I want to know how we can address it as a commission or in our dialogues, look at it. Having come back from the inauguration and had a wonderful time, I was blissfully there, and one of the things I've been doing is listening to the news. I haven't done that in the last 8 years. And just really been, I mean, I get up in the morning and turn on CNN. And I was trying to figure out something, and it kind of clicked in place for me today. And I'm throwing this out here because I want some feedback from you and some thoughts on where to go with this. I was thinking, boy, the Republicans are really doing something different. They think this is about race. They've made Michael Steele the chair of the RNC. it's not about race. And then, now their heir apparent is Bobby Jindal, who is Eastern Indian and from Louisiana. And I'm thinking about it, and then this morning, Warren Valentine, I think his name is, he's a radio talk show host. He's on 1480 AM radio. I think he comes up at 8 o'clock in the morning from 8 till about 10. Very African-American, very articulate, lawyer, talks about a lot of interesting issues. And one of the things he brought up was that Rush Limbaugh made a comment about Michael Steele, chair of the RNC, to the point that Steele said that Limbaugh was entertainment. And Limbaugh came back and kind of cut him off at the corners, shall we say. And then Steele apologized to him, and I thought, what is going on here? This means something, this means something. Then it finally dawned on me, and this is my thought, that what the Republicans are doing is they're putting in a black chair, they're bringing in a man of color, and what they're going to do is end up with a third party, where people, the power people, are pulling away from the Republican Party and moving toward a more right-wing stance. Because gun sales have been up higher than they've ever been in this country. And I just thought, wow, I can see the Wall Streeters hooking up with the skinheads because there's this fear. And that just came to me today, and I don't know, maybe I'm way out there, strange things have happened, but I really feel that that's the direction we're going in, and I'd like to, kind of address that and discuss what can we do to kind of help with that. I mean, I see these discussions as being there, but...
By the way, it's not your imagination. CNN last night, Anderson Cooper was commenting that Rush Limbaugh is the real head of the Republican Party, which is why the other guy deferred to him. It's not your imagination.
I have another comment, and I'm not one to defend.
Jeff, point of order.
Yes, sir.
Is this public comment? Or
We're actually, that's a really good point of order. I think we're just having an internal conversation now. Is there anyone else who wants to make public comment?
Do you have an announcement?
Well, yeah, we can do that. This is really, where we are is back in our agenda at an undefined place in it, but I don't think there's any problem with that. We're just having it. So, but we're done with public comment. Back to the Human Rights Commission talking to each other, and whoever wants to listen. Yes, Malay.
That the selection, he was elected, Michael Steele, by Republicans to be their chair, and he beat out a white Southern gentleman who blamed integration for him becoming a Republican. And so, I do think that even though on a political level, I don't agree probably with much, if anything, Mr. Steele has to say, but his victory is something that I think we, should be acknowledged as important for the progress of a party that for the last, say, 70, 80 years has been considered on the wrong side of many of these issues. And, maybe still today might be considered on the wrong side. But, how it's played out since then with the Rush Limbaugh and everything, I don't really have much to say about that, but I do think it's worth noting that Steele did beat out somebody who had basically stood for, the fact that he shouldn't be there.
Thank you for that.
So were you trying to get at the possibility of an increasingly polarized society?
Yes.
Okay.
That was what I'm feeling.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm feeling, and that I'm fearing, and really seeing the need for these discussions to open up more, and soon.
I guess my thought about that is that history shows that whenever something truly significant happens, and I think we have to acknowledge the election of Barack Obama is truly significant, inevitably there's a significant reaction to it, and I think that there is real reason to fear that. My 2 cents on it is I feel right now the forces of tolerance and the forces of inclusion are the ones that are actually moving forward, and we're dominant, and Barack Obama's got a 68% approval rating, and Rush Limbaugh's being demonized because no one likes him. And there's a reason that
I thought it was just because he was a drug addict.
At least today. I mean, there's clearly a reaction going on, but there's hopeful stuff happening to counter down.
Just one comment to mention is the beautiful thing about here in the US, very diverse. There are people who go far left, some of them far right, some of them angry, some of them happy, some of them educated, some not. For me, or as a human rights, I welcome everybody's opinion and point of view. I'm not necessarily I will agree with some of them, but I welcome and they respected it. And always I get people cut them slack to explain to me why they arrive to that. And that's where the dialogue opens to explain and interact, have a dialogue. Not shutting them down, then I am the person who's going low and I am the person who's the ignorant. So what is really important is, and again, forgive me here, I don't keep coming to education because I'm in the field of education. No. It is very important to educate people. It is very important to help young as well as adults, as well as smart people, older people, I call them smarter people, about what's happening in our communities. Giving them the tools, then we let them decide and respect their decisions. The wrong way I can go is when I punish somebody, when I say something and punish them to be quiet. Then I'm going through against my values, or values of our presidents, whose involvement in communities, education. Those were how we approach it. For a radio show person, is he a reporter? Is he a commentary? Is he a comedian? Is he somebody to make people feel? And who listens to him? Probably if you took a poll, you will see people who didn't have. I'm not going to go there, I will stop there. But it's like, that's what we should be doing actually as one of our roles in Human Rights Commission, is helping our community to be having the right to listen, to enter into a dialogue, and to educate, and to schools to be our students in elementary and middle and high school, which I'm very really still disappointed in our system that some countries in third world, they already teaching as part of the curriculum human rights values, what is human rights means. And here we are in the US, we're always taking a little bit, we're lagging behind. So that's what I will say is, again, when I said to your last meeting, I said I was sitting at home like you, and it was what I am lucky for me going to the schools and volunteer to speak to them about the world in Africa or Middle East or Europe or the other world. That's where I can make a difference for people to touch the reality and see it. So that's what I think my suggestion is.
You just said a mouthful there, and I just wanted to comment on it. I was thinking, you said something about radio, and I thought it would be great to have a radio show where maybe we have dialogue and people can call in and discuss and start some dialogues going, and then from that maybe coordinate those with our discussion groups or something. I don't know what station, I don't know who would lead it, I don't know who would be on the program, but I just think that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
Probably a good fit with K-Boo.
Yeah, I was going to say K-Boo.
Or even going to, for example, welcoming the media to us taking the step, not waiting for them to come to us, is asking them, would you be willing also for us to be hosting us and have a dialogue or discussion or tell community who we are. So we are taking the step to go there, and this is really, I appreciate mentioning that. It's very critical media.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Well, our next agenda item has start training ideas. Do you want to
I'll clarify that.
Yes.
This was a request by ECHO, but there's already two pending opportunities. One is with the Oregon Council for Fair Housing, and Malloy has been gracious enough to secure us a bus tour about the history of discrimination in housing in Portland. And so we will be passing out potential dates. We're trying to secure a bus to leave from a centralized location to take human rights commissioners around the city to understand this a little better. And this would be an education opportunity for the commission. Would you like to say something about this before I?
Sure. I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I'll just quickly summarize. A year ago in April, we did for the first time a bus tour of the city of Portland. visiting at or stopping at a couple of sites and driving by many other sites that were historic sites of illegal housing discrimination or just housing discrimination. Because some of it, unfortunately, at the time was perfectly legal. And so for this April, and the significance of April is it commemorates the passage of the Fair Housing Act in 1968. It was passed about a week after Martin Luther King was assassinated. The effort for it had been going on for some time. So we've received grant funding, my organization, to do a series of tours, and I wanted one of the tours to be for the Human Rights Commissioners and staff, and so all we need to figure out a date. And so the list that I passed around is a list of potential dates. Mary, at least I don't know if you can maybe send that as a scan to everybody.
Can I ask you what the time on those dates is?
Full day.
Is it full day? I thought we were saying 3 or 4 hours.
The tour itself takes about 2.5 hours. I guess that's another area of discussion is when we did it last year, we did the tour for about 2.5 hours, and then we did a program for the second half of the day. So it ended up being like 9 to 3 or so. If the commission wants to have an opportunity to converse about what had happened, I mean, I'm not necessarily proposing a formalized program where people come up and just talk at you, but maybe where we could begin talking either in small groups or whatever about the tour and our reactions to it. We can do that, or I know everyone's busy, everybody's doing this in addition to a full life, we can just do the tour. So if Maria Lisa can send an email around with this, and if you all can contact me and let me know, maybe give 2 or 3 dates that would work for each of you, and then whichever one gets the most votes, we'll pick. And then also let me know whether you would prefer the full day, more like a 5-hour tour/event, or just the tour, and we can use that to pick that as well.
So I will send out an email and I will copy you, and then when you reply, you include Malloy in the reply.
But if you want your relatives and friends to go on this tour, we are hosting, my organization and the Oregon Jewish Museum are hosting this very same tour on March 29th. It's open to the public. It does cost $40. And you can go to my website, or to the website for the ojm.org, which might be easier to remember than mine, and you can sign up and you can go. Anyone can go.
Are there any partnering or organizations that we might want to partner with on issues related to this that we would want to invite? I don't know how many seats there are on the bus, but do you want only human rights commissioners?
Well, like I said, we got funding to do about 3 tours, and 2 of those are targeted for other groups like low-income tenants and I forget the other one. But one of them I wanted to set aside to make sure that we had room for the Human Rights Commission, and we've also talked with some other organizations like Coalition Against Hate Crimes. So, the bus itself, it's about 50 people, and then if we're gonna have more than that, we need to get another bus.
I guess I asked the question just that, since we are affiliated with the city of Portland, is it reasonable to look at the Planning Bureau or other city people who might have some reason to perform their job better if they had more information on this topic?
Well, what I can say is I would definitely consider that for future tours. Because we're going to continue to try and secure funding for more tours, because the one we did in April was extremely popular, so that's why we sought out more funding to do more. And this is we got this grant to do these, and so that's what we're focusing on. But obviously, if we get other grants, we can try and target other groups, and we can do, like Emily said, we can try and coordinate to set one up that would people would pay for.
I'm thinking,
Well, for my
Planning
case,
Commission
this
code, yeah,
particular
some of those
tour would benefit our group. I would prefer to have it be us,
okay.
because it would be more of a bonding
Conversation,
thing.
yeah.
And it would really be kind of like a mini retreat, which would be good for us.
Okay, so can I move on
Public
with that particular piece?
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, agenda item.
There was another training too, right?
Right,
The lawyers wanted us to take.
we have a request from the city attorney's office for 30 minutes of your time in April to do a training on ethics. And
As part of our
30 minutes
agenda in our
as part
April
of-
meeting.
Yes, as part of the formation of the commission. And the reason for that is it could be long, it could be a whole day. I mean, 30 minutes on ethics, because there, I gather, have been issues with volunteer commissions as agents of the city, interacting with public and issues of ethics, and so we want to protect the commission and the integrity of your work. And then Hector had suggested that we put this on the agenda because we want to get ideas, and Hector in particular had suggested specific training around issues of difference, different cultures, different perspectives to come before the commission so that we and you all can become more immersed in the work of justice and the work of building equity.
Also in April, or just?
No.
On a continuing basis.
Right.
One of the things that I discovered is how ignorant I am of many, many things, particularly about other people. And yet I act often as if I knew a lot of things about others until I'm corrected, and usually that's by an exchange of information, education. It really flows into what you're talking about. I think for those of us who sit in this commission who are daring to take on the challenge of human rights on behalf of the city of Portland, we need to understand and experience as much about our community as possible. And so the training idea is something that is ongoing. You know, I don't know what it means, once a month, once every 3 months, whatever. But that it provides an opportunity for people to come and share with us reality, their distinct reality, including spending a week at the police academy.
A week?
I was fully with you.
Another thing, since the district attorney, I mean, what is he, the city attorney?
City attorney.
I'm always thinking criminal system. I think I'd like to hear from the chief, sharing with us her perspective on not just police community relations, but on the whole issue of human rights from where she sits. I think that'd be an incredible training moment for us.
I agree with that.
Yeah, well, on NPR the other day, I heard an issue about the upcoming census too, and underreporting of people in communities. And I'm thinking, you know, if that's a fear-based issue, it might be worthwhile for us to understand what the fear is and what, if anything, you know, can be done if it's important to get that count correct. I mean, and I don't know what the timing of that is, but I sense it's coming up pretty.
It's not going to, the county commission actually is working with IRS on some issues around that, which might be an appropriate thing for us to be briefed on.
I don't know. That
to hear about.
Sounds like someone else.
It is a huge issue.
Yes.
We talked about one more item, and that was about the possibility of having our meetings in different parts of the community. And then maybe at that time giving folk from that particular community a chance to interact with us.
Or make a presentation.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone open to that? Sounds like there's consensus on that.
Although it's just awesome space, good parking.
Yeah.
Just
accessible.
I concur with you about the trainings, and it is really valuable to have people who are from those cultures, not somebody who's paid as educated to come and tell me about another culture, to come, and they know that there is a lot of people, as you know, sir, in the community that would love to come and share.
Yeah.
But about the police academy, no, actually, no, it's serious, because I signed up with Ride Along, with, with North, I asked for North East Portland, my priority, but also with downtown, because I would like to tour all of the city to learn as well, because I'm not going to be in a committee and I'm ignorant about a lot of things. But about the police academy, I think some of us we don't need all to be experts or knowledgeable, but one person can be expert in our committee about one field that to advise us. So I will nominate you to go for a week. No, really, seriously, is that if we can't afford, or can we all do it, but it's good to have some of us who went through some trainings or knowledge somewhere that can come and share with us, but as we go, is to tell us, hold on a second, maybe this is what we need to think about.
Yes, I actually went to the LA Police Academy in the mid-1980s and helped develop the human rights training there, and specifically presented the gay and lesbian training to one of the most hostile audiences anyone could ever perform in front of. That being said, the first thing that most civilians don't realize about law enforcement is they are also members of a maligned, misunderstood, and discriminated against minority group. And I think it is important to get to know them on their turf along with everybody else, because if we really honor what they do and the sacrifices that they make, you know, for example, their children, when their playmates find out daddy's a cop, they stop playing with them. I have family who are in law enforcement, so it's like everything else in this, you know, there's all that interweaves and it's complicated, but about being mistreated and misunderstood because of who or what you are.
Thanks. Emily?
This is not for training, but I am here in this space for the first time, and congratulations on a beautiful place. You all may have been here last night. And please forgive me if I'm telling you something you already know, but having heard about the Colored Pencils Project, which is a Center for Intercultural Organizing, it seems to me that you've got a beautiful space here to have exhibits and to have people come and, like, I own an exhibit which is currently up, my organization owns an exhibit which is currently up at the Oregon Jewish Museum, but we would love to have it here, for example. But, yeah, I'm not sure you have foot traffic coming here yet, but you could have our names, you could have, we could have our Desmond Tutu dialogues here. This is a really, really, it's a treasure, and we should put together a committee of our commission to figure out how to use the space and make it a welcoming place for all of the kinds of things we might want to do.
Thank you.
Also, could raise some funds.
Yeah, just a brief response to what you said. The art that you see, and some pieces are missing, are from a local artist named Zuto, and we plan to rotate art in this space. This is an opportunity to highlight the arts especially from communities that don't get representation in settings where other artists do. And I appreciate the opportunity to celebrate the space. It was not an easy find. It is in the heart of a community, and we are starting to get some foot traffic, and people who come feel really welcome here, feel like it is a space they want to just come and be. So we're happy about that. It's much different from City Hall, very different feel.
Indeed. And the parking's much better.
Yeah.
Officer Eckhart, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to volunteer as opposed to everybody going to week at the police academy. Every time we have a meeting, since I'm going to be the liaison from the police bureau, to bring an officer with me, someone from the police bureau, that could give you a little presentation on their background so that it can help break down some of the stereotypes that obviously LAPD, starting with Act 12, we all have stereotypes. But I run the detective division, and I would challenge the commission to tell me how many people or what percentage of people in the detective division are gay or lesbian, openly gay or lesbian. And I think 50%. 50?
You didn't even know that, did you?
I know two detectives and they're both lesbians, so that's just...
Yeah, and we have 10%.
The only two I know.
10% of the detective division. So there are a lot of stereotypes, and I think if officers and detectives are given the opportunity, hearing from Chief Sizer is wonderful because she spent her entire career here, but we've attracted people from all over the United States to come to Portland. Captain in Washington, D.C. works for me now as an officer, and her partner works at our family services. And I think that would give you a real good foundation, because a lot of the work is going to involve law enforcement, crime, and those type of issues.
Great, thank you. We're just about out of time. Does anyone have any announcements before we close?
Sorry, I always have something. You're going to be getting in the mail an invitation to the Oregon Area Jewish Committee, that's my organization, to our community intergroup Seder. It's an opportunity. We get people from all across the whole breadth of faith groups and ethnic groups, and you come and learn about the Festival of Freedom, which is what we call Passover, and it's fun and it's got food, and I hope you'll look at it and not throw it away and attend.
When is Passover this year?
We'll just start on the 10th or something, but it's April 6th. It's Monday, April 6th is our Seder, and you'll be receiving an invitation to throw it away.
Great. Anyone else?
Just this month, last month was the Black History Month, and this month is the Women's History and Women's Month. So please be nice and polite to all ladies in our communities, tell them happy month. But also what we need to be also celebrating.
Only 1 month out of the year.
I mean, the whole time, this is the month.
We can forget the name for that
I'm 1/6 person, I had 2 months in a row, hey?
Yeah, no, there you go.
But as a human rights commissioner, I need to challenge this, because where is the man?
Wrong commission.
All right, thanks everyone. Another great
Thank you, Jeff.
meeting. Have a good evening.
Are we?